good afternoon. It's DK and Arif with Humble Associates and the Agile 101.
Hey, welcome everyone. It's amazing to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited about today's topic, aren't we, TK? What are we talking about?
Well, actually, we're definitely talking about something important, the purpose of everything. So let
Yes,
us know who you are. Let us know where you're hailing from. We're here in London.
yes.
It's a bit of a heat wave, but I guess seeing your faces, you're probably from some places that either are cold or hot. Well, global warming,
Yeah,
right? What you gonna do? So today
what you gonna
we're
do?
talking about starting the teams with a proper purpose, starting the teams with their why. Why is that
Yes.
important? Why have we decided to do that today, Arif?
Why are we talking about why?
Yeah, it's a
It's
meta
it's
question, isn't it?
it's a meta question indeed. Yeah, and do put your comments in the chat where you're coming from, where you're joining us from, and if you have any thoughts and questions as we go through today's session, then put them in the comments box, and we'll look at it as we go through today's webinar. Back to TK's question: why are we talking about why? Well, very simply, when we looked at the Agile principles and values way back when on our Agile 101 series, and you might have to go back a few episodes, we were talking about some of the things around the kind of idea of a team being self-organizing. Remember, that's one of the 12
Indeed.
Agile principles. And so when we talked about some of that and when we look at some of that stuff, how can a team be self-organizing if they don't really know their purpose, perhaps, right? So there's a real kind of, there's a connection there between how do we make a team feel motivated and feel like they know what they're doing, but at the same time, we want them to be self-organizing.
So tell you what,
There's got to
Arif,
be
I don't
something
think it's
there.
only
Go for it.
self-organizing. I'm going to make a
Okay,
scientific experiment here on the stream.
please do.
So a
Please do.
question for you, our wonderful viewers. Do you know your team's purpose? Do you
Oh,
actually
great
understand what your
question.
team purpose is? There might be a small hiccup for me with the wrong size of the slide, but don't worry about it. I'm just going to fix it as I am over here. Yes. So what's your team's purpose? Do you actually know your team's purpose? What might that be? So let
Yes.
us know in the chat. So Arif, yeah, what's our team's purpose?
Oh, ours is to spread agile ways of learning, agile ways of working around the world, right? Or even whether it's here in the UK or wherever you are, we want to spread the wonderful, amazing benefits of agile ways of working and to show people what leadership looks like in an agile world as well. That's the other thing. So we've got a kind of a mixed purpose as to why we're here and what we want to do.
Absolutely,
Would you
and I
say?
would love to hear the purposes of your teams. But if you don't know your purpose, let us know that you don't know, because today we're going to give you some tools and hopefully, hopefully some good ways of finding out your own purpose. And so, Hola, I'm sorry that you can't hear it, but I'm sure if you reload it, you'll be able to hear it. So,
Yeah.
this is a real question that we need to ask, because I think we're talking about so many things or in regards to our teams, and we're skipping this very meaningful question, the most important question when it comes to any kind of work, which is why. And by the way, Tess, what's your wonderful purpose? To provide service for owners and strategies at work. Well, that's a wonderful
Amazing.
purpose.
Thank
Similar
you.
to
Thank you,
ours,
Tess.
which is important. Thank you so much, and we're looking forward to reading the rest of your purposes. But there's the famous three circles by Simon Sinek, which we base our webinar on. So, Arif, help us understand what's here. What are the three circles?
Well, exactly. So if you haven't watched it, there's a very famous TED talk. It's probably nearing 20 years old now. I don't know. It feels like that, showing my age.
Yeah, I
But
guess so.
do check it out in your own time. It's probably 6-7 minutes long. And Simon talks about this very simple model for trying to pick out, understand the why behind what you do. And his argument is that people don't actually interact with you or get some value from you or your team or buy something from you because of what you're selling, but it's actually because of the why. So if you have a real purpose that's very clear and coherent and it can be translated in everything you're doing, then it's going to make sense for people on the outside to understand what you do and buy into that, and probably have some connection towards it and feel some affinity towards it. So he's broken that down into 3 kind of layers. And he's saying, look, first, understand your reason for being. Why are you here? What are you trying to deliver, achieve? What's your goal? What's your mission? What is it that you're trying to change in the world? Why are you doing this? What's the reason behind it? And then he's asking you to think about, okay, now you've understood your why. How will you make that happen? What will you be doing differently? How will you provide some difference in the marketplace, in the world around you? So it's not the why, it's how it's going to happen. And then finally, as a result of the why and the how, what are those differences? What are those tangible things, widgets, for example, things that you're going to produce, those pieces of value? What are they that you're going to sell, provide, deliver to the people who are going to consume your team's work? So that's how he's kind of broken it down. And if you're working in, whether you're working in technology, outside of technology, if you're working in an environment where you need to be, you have a value consumer, you have a group of people who consume value from what you deliver, then this is a really useful model for you. I think it's something that you can really tap into and think about and break it down in your minds. Is it clear for our team why we do what we do? Is it clear how we do it? Is it clear what we're delivering to those consumers, so that those consumers, those value consumers, can actually get value in the right way, and they can connect with your products or services in the right way?
It's a very good point, Arif. And we brought this model in because every model is useful. This one is terribly useful for what we do and terribly useful for agility. But let's dive a bit deeper into these circles. So the first one is why. And the moniker is start with why. But why are we actually starting with why? Why is it the first one in all these circles, Arif?
Well, I think that's the clear thing. If you have an answer of it's like, what's a good example we can think of? Let's think of something. Most people, they start businesses nowadays, startups, scale-ups, etc., or startups you find nowadays who don't have a clear mission or clear reason why they're delivering the services they're delivering. I think it translates into poor user experience, poor experience for the end consumer. For people investing in the business, it can be very difficult as well, because they don't understand what return they're going to get from investing in you. If you're not clear on the problem you're solving, why you want to solve it, and how you will then translate that into some differentiation into the marketplace, it's not going to be a very long-term, clear strategy for you that will result in any kind of success. We look at organizations like, now you've got companies like Amazon and Netflix and all these big tech businesses that we see. They, I think, have really encapsulated Simon's model quite well if you look at how they operate, because they have a clear reason or differentiation that they're delivering to their consumers that I think stands out very clearly. Their why is very different. For Netflix, it was all about their why is all about bringing that kind of capability right into the consumer's hand, so they can make the choice of what they want to watch, when they want to watch it, giving that flexibility to them. Kind of wiped out the whole previous business model of renting VHS tapes and DVDs and CDs.
And renting tapes themselves and DVDs, right?
Yeah,
online,
exactly.
But
so
it just changed the thing.
So they've just flipped that whole model on its head. They have a very
this
clear
actually
why,
goes to the second one, which is the how, right? So they've changed, they have the why of people consuming the content, but they've changed the how from renting DVDs online to now streaming. So that's an interesting one. This is always vexing me a bit, that the how is in the middle, right? It's what being on the outside, why being on the inside, but how being the middle layer. What's so important about how that it's neither at the end nor at the beginning, Arif?
I don't know. It's a good question. That's just how, I guess it's worth watching Simon's video again, and where he's delivering his TED talk and explaining it. But I think it's a nice connection between the two, because putting in the middle means sometimes when we think of the what, we're thinking of a solution or an idea, right? And just because we have an idea and a solution, if we don't know whether it meets someone's needs or whether it meets a need, whether it's to your business, to your organization, or whether it meets the consumer who you're delivering this to, whether it meets their needs, you might be in a bit of a tricky situation where you're trying to come up with a solution. You think there's a solution. You think the solution is the answer. Whereas what he's saying on the other end of the spectrum is, I think Simon's view is, look, if you understand the why behind what you're doing, you'll be able to create even better what at the end. So
Good
in order
point.
to get to
Yes,
that
which is the
what
third
at
one,
the
right?
end in the right way, you need to make sure you get through to the how first. So to get to the what, understand your why, look at how you're going to do it, and then do the what. So the what comes last, right?
But when you
Let's
think
start with
about
the
it,
why.
and just a couple of
The other
call-outs from the people in the comments. First of all,
yes,
thank you so much for sharing your purpose, Maxwell. You have a wonderful purpose of demystifying science. And Karen, you've asked how does it connect to agile teams? Well,
oh yes, we
hold
need to
that
come to
thought.
that.
We definitely are
We are
going to
coming.
get to that very soon, and
Yes,
we'll give you a
yeah,
practical tool how you can find the why of your agile team and how you can connect it to it. But before we go there, we want to talk about the what, because this is very important. Personally, I think that the importance of what being the last element of the three circles and the three circle model is extremely important. Because so many of us, when we think about a particular problem, jump straight into a solution. I
yeah,
think it's the
exactly.
education system that maybe prompts us to do that a bit. And it's just like everyone's asking us for solutions. Where actually, I believe, and we definitely believe in Humble Associates too, that understanding your problem, understanding your purpose first is a necessity to find the right solution for adding
Yeah,
value to whoever you're adding value to. So this is
hundred
extremely
percent.
important not to jump into the what too quickly, because so many people do, and they get lost in the what itself. The solution is basically overshadowing everything, which has to do with the problem and the value, which is a huge pitfall people can fall into. But then again, the question is, what does it have to do with agile, Arif? There's the definition of agility by Liz Atkins, and why does this model matter?
Well, I think I think this is the thing. If we've put Lisa's definition back on the screen, or if you before you move that away, I think there's this thing around. If you're working in a complex world, if you're working in a complex space, even if you're in a non-tech space, you might. We've used marketing examples. We've talked about HR, talked about finance, all of these different business functions that we have in many of our businesses nowadays. Whatever it is, there is going to be some degrees of complexity where things are changing, things are unsure, things are uncertain. If you have not got, and if you're delivering some value to whoever you're delivering to, I think not having a clear understanding of why you're delivering the services you're delivering, going back to what we said earlier, in an agile environment where things are constantly changing, if you don't have a kind of North Star or a kind of end goal you're trying to reach to, or an end out, maybe not an end goal, but an outcome or a goal that you want to achieve, then I think when change occurs and when the conditions and the environment are constantly flexing, it's harder for you to then adjust in order to move towards that goal point or that North Star point, because then you're constantly in flux because of the conditions around you. So having that kind of goal or reason that you're doing the work you're doing, and that making that as a vision or a mission or a direction that you're heading towards means that when the environment is changing, we have something to look at and say, that's our anchor point. We need to head back in that direction, or we need to somehow get back to that goal based on the new conditions we're in. That's
And
what I would
without
say.
the North Star, it's easy to get lost, right? And we definitely, wherever we work with companies that are looking into agility, the concept of North Star, as you might remember from one of our first workshops, is tremendously important. But we promised you a bit of a tool. So what we wanted to show you is the Team Canvas. And the Team Canvas is a wonderful tool that we used quite some time, actually, even before we started Humble Associates, to help teams and organizations understand
the
purposes of the team. So Arif, when have you started using this tool?
Oh, it's been a few years now, but probably even before that. But I mean, what I like about this is it's as a tool, it's a nice kind of map. It's a kind of like a direction finder. You can go wherever you want to in order to start building up, eventually fill it all in, but in order to build up and collate a diverse kind of set of thoughts and feelings from your team around why they exist as a team, what purpose they deliver outwardly, and how they know they're going to get there as a team as well. So I think if we look at that canvas again, I love the fact that in the center we're talking about purpose. Okay, it's really again going to Simon's point about having the why in the center. Why are we here as a team? What's the point of our team? Well, what is the value? And then the how, I think from a team point of view, what I really like from a team point of view is you're looking at the kind of operating model of this team. So we as a team are going to contract with each other. We're going to have a conversation. We're going to have some debate perhaps, and we're going to develop our own or codify our own operating system. So as a team, what is it that we need to agree with each other in terms of values, goals, expectations and standards and needs that we think are acceptable as a team? Now, remember, guys, obviously, and girls, this isn't a fixed model. It's not. We're not saying once you map all this out, then that's it. It's done, and you dust it off. You wipe your hands clean of it, and then you leave it and put it in a cupboard and never look at it for 6 months. We're not saying that at all. It should be a living, breathing document. It's something that you publish and review on a regular basis. And remember, we're all about retrospecting in an agile world as well, right? So constantly review it. But the important thing is those 4 boxes around you really are about that operating model. And then the what, I think I like, is you've got other elements of the what. What are the outward behaviors? What are we going to be doing as a team? How are we behaving? What actions are we going to be doing? What are the processes that we're going to use? What are the events that we're going to run or activities that we're going to do that will really demonstrate to people around, to the outside world, our team's values, why we exist, our purpose, so they can see how we're working as a team. And that gives the team also some kind of, I think, identity. It gives some kind of, it enhances the collaboration aspect as well. And also it gives us a point where we can then look back on a regular basis, like I said, and say, you know what, we talked a few weeks ago about a particular need that we have. For example, that we want to make sure that everyone has a voice when we're in a particular meeting. And what I'm noticing as a team member is that we're not respecting that. So I want to raise that. I want to talk about that. We've documented that on our canvas. Why are we not behaving in that same way? So I think that's the benefit and value of a tool like this, really. So highly encourage it, and I think it maps really well to Simon's model.
Then again, one thing that I want to talk about is what do you do with the tool? Because, we're showing you this. You can go to the canvas and find the team canvas. But the thing is, how do you use it? So a bit about how we use it. We usually start with the purpose, which is the why. Start with why as the topic of today's webinar. But then we go through a bit of a spiral on this axis. So we go with values, needs and expectations, personal goals, and goals. So these 4 are quite interesting. And as Arif said, they constitute the operational framework, the operational system of the team. But Arif, as always, as you have so many great stories to say, if you look at the model, let me put it back, which of these 4, values, needs and expectations, personal goals, and goals, you find the hardest, or in your experience, is the hardest for teams to define?
That's a tough question, I think. Let's put it back again. So of the 4, so values, goals, needs, expectations, but I think the values one is a difficult one. It might be easy when I see a lot of agile coach. I've been doing that. Excuse me. I can relate to it as well. Where we do some sessions where we think, oh yeah, let's have a review about our values. Let's talk about them. Let's create them. But I think it's really difficult because getting consensus on something that's very personal like that is not easy. So it's not the easiest element of those 4 in my view. because typically what we're talking about is what I think is valuable. To me, this is valuable because my value
Yeah, and what does
system
it mean
and
for
how
the
I,
team? Yeah.
yeah, and where I come from and what I respect and what I think is acceptable may be different to someone else. Consolidating that and having a group view or a team view, not the easiest thing to do. There's going to be some give and take, etc. Not everyone's, going to be feeling like they're part of that. So it's not an easy one.
It's a very good point, and we are not used to talking about values. We're not also the second one
No,
about needs and expectations. We're
that's
not
another
used
one.
to talking about what we need from each other. So what I find with new teams is very difficult with these two on the right, left, on the right. The values and needs and expectations are difficult to define, especially when a new team starts along. To be able to have a
Yes.
safe conversation around that, it's mostly very difficult. And by the way, going to our wonderful chat, there are a couple of questions, a couple of great insights. Just to call out, it's a live meeting, so we want to interact with you. And thank you for your wonderful comments. Keep them coming. Rosemary, I think you've said, can these be used on the program level? I would say yes, but what I would recommend is making sure that all of them fit. The worst thing that you can do is to apply a tool that doesn't fit the situation, you just squeeze it in. So make
Yeah.
sure that everything, like personal goals, does it really fit when it's a group of like 100 people, right? Possibly so, but there's a different method of doing that. The values may also be difficult. And an
Yeah.
interesting one from Pashanti from Canada about who does define the purpose of an agile team?
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting
Great question.
question, which I have an answer to. But as always, I'm usually keeping my mouth shut and giving Arif the floor. So, who defines the
No, go
purpose,
for it,
Arif?
TK. I think
Well, okay.
some people are fed up of hearing from me
Well,
today.
okay.
I've got
So,
some comments
so, so
already. So
let's
go.
let's get some proper TKisms in. So,
Yes, please.
this is a difficult one. It's difficult because it's simple. There is a simple answer, but what you will find is this answer may not satisfy you. It's the person that has put the team in place, right?
Mm.
Somehow, someone has hired the members or the team itself or the organization that the team comes from. Someone is physically, it's usually with money, compensating them, or if it's like a duty service, or military or something. Someone gave the order for these people to come about. It's a shame that a lot of the time, these people that have hired a team may not know why they've done so. And it's a very uncomfortable question to ask them. It's like, why are we here? I was like, it's a difficult question to ask a leader that doesn't know why they've put a team in place. But it's their job to give you the purpose because they are hiring you. Unless you are the ones that have, started a new venture, and it's your job to find your own purpose and define it. Anything to add, Arif?
No, I think I would agree. I think I can only recall one occasion in my career where leadership were very clear about that, and that was
So, yeah.
the reason being was they were coming from a place of failure, so it
Okay.
was easy for them. So they had been developing something. It was a failure, unfortunately, when it was finished and delivered, and they then realized they had to turn things around and effectively remediate the problem. So they expressly went out and hired a whole new group of people, and then said, "You've got 6 months, and your whole purpose here is to fix everything that went wrong." So it was
Yeah.
simple in that sense, that everyone was very clear and really actually helped everyone to understand, okay, we've got 6 months. We're here to fix whatever went wrong. Let's agree what the things are and let's get cracking.
And
So
it's
in
it's
that
just
sense,
such
the
a wonderful
purpose
thing,
was,
Arif, in terms
yeah,
of
it was
like
upfront.
the
Yeah,
fact that so few, and that it's such a rare occurrence that people really know what is the purpose of teams they're putting in place. Because I think many times in organizations we're just maybe shying away from responsibility, not
yeah,
taking, because giving someone a purpose sounds monumental. Sounds like I embody you with this soul, with this purpose in life or at work. And it's like, sounds quite grandiose, but it actually is. So this is interesting. What do we? Yes, Jigner said you'll get different answers from stakeholders. But it's a problem if you are being sponsored or set up by multiple people, and your purpose may be chaotic. It's another episode altogether of our webinar to talk about that, but that's another one. So, Arif, do you see any other interesting questions in the chat? Go ahead.
There's a lovely question from Stella who's asking how do you ensure the why is ensured throughout the delivery process? I like that question. Okay. Very good question. So as delivery is progressing, how do you ensure the why? I kind of alluded to it earlier, so I'll just repeat it again. In Agile, we talk a lot about this idea, and there's a clear principle on regular occasions inspecting what's happened and improving and trying to find new ways to get better effectively, right? That's one of the Agile principles. So I haven't phrased it word for word, but I'm paraphrasing. So I think that would be where I would use that principle to then do the same thing here, which is, okay, let's regularly check our team's purpose. Are we still working towards the same purpose that we had at the start? Have we moved to something else? Does the purpose need to change? Maybe the purpose needs to evolve. It might not be valid anymore. So I think some cadence, whatever the right cadence is for you and your team, but some cadence of checking regularly on our purpose and making sure we're all collectively agreed on it and aligned on it, I think is not a bad thing. So, if it's every couple of weeks, if it's every month, I don't know what works for you, but it's something worth thinking about. That's what I would say.
Good point, Arif. And by the way, for those that are asking, the session is recorded and it will be available here on this link. You don't have to go anywhere. Once the live finishes, you can go to our profile, see this session and all our previous sessions, which is a great thing. We also have a YouTube channel, Humble Associates. Yes. Go ahead, Arif. Yes.
No, yeah, we'll be on YouTube. We'll be sending the link out on our newsletter as well. So when you get our newsletter, have a look.
Yes. So this is interesting, right? So if you want to get onto our newsletter and learn more about sessions like this, it's very easy. So after this session, I will send out the slides. And if you want to get onto the newsletter, it's incredibly easy. You just download the slides. It's as simple as that. By downloading the slides, you join the newsletter. So we'd love to hear you. So there's also these 1, 2, 3, 4 peripheral ones, Arif, in terms of the canvas. Is there anyone that you find particularly interesting or challenging yourself?
I think the interesting one, I mean, clearly there's the weakness and development areas. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. And I think that points us to something which is, okay, is that a conversation you can easily have straight off the bat? Like day one, brand new team, you've got a group of people together, you're working through this canvas. Are you going to be able to have that conversation, or is it something that may take some time, right? And we haven't talked about it, and we haven't mentioned the phrase, but psychological safety. People know that it's a very popular term now, but there has to be some degree of people feeling comfortable enough to share those vulnerabilities in order for you to then perhaps build some of that trust. Maybe that's a topic that we may come to later on in our series, but there is something there, which is, I think some of those will require a degree of trust and vulnerability between team members for you to be able to get real value out of it. So that would be a tricky one for me.
It is a tricky one. And I think, also when it comes to putting in rules, even if you expose all the values, putting rules and action points is difficult for some people because it's something really practical. And I usually encourage people to say, look, if you're putting rules in place, there needs to be a purpose for why you're doing so. But another interesting one is if you go to and search for the team canvas, you will find a simpler version only with the 4 quadrants and the purpose in the middle in the shape of a nice heart.
I think we can attach the canvas when we send the slides, can't we, TK?
Yeah, possibly. I'll put a link in,
or a link to it,
and you'll be able to do it. Actually, you will be able to click the link on the slide itself, so you can see that and download the canvas from the wonderful people that produced it. We're just using it. We're giving the credit when the credit is due. But we also developed something ourselves. So this is a team canvas, but what about your organization? If you want to see if your organization is up for agility, we do have something for you, which is the Agile Scorecard. So what's the Agile Scorecard about, Arif?
Yeah, so this is an opportunity. If you're looking at trying to if you're looking at introducing agile ways of working into your organization, into your team or set of teams, for example, we've got a lovely tool here, which I think everyone would benefit from, which is answer some questions, take our assessment basically, and you'll get some understanding and some scoring on various categories, which we think will give you enough to then think about where do you need to do some work in order for you to be ready for applying agile ways of working. So it's a free online assessment tool. Scan the QR code, go on our website, answer some questions, take the assessment, and with the scoring, you'll get some indication of where you are as an organization or a team in terms of your readiness to apply agile ways of working.
And as Arif said, it's just important to reflect and find your points for improvement and weaknesses. And finally, you've asked a lot of questions to us, but there's a special session we have just for your questions. So the Agile Q&A, if you scan this QR code, our next Agile Q&A, which is a live session like this, is on the 20th. So go to humble.associates/questions or scan the QR code, register for our next live show, and we'll be able to talk to you then. And with that, that's it. It's been lovely having you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to see you at our next event, hopefully on our Q&A show. And if you've got questions you want us to answer for our Q&A show, send them in. Get in touch with us and send them
Always
in.
Always lovely to get your questions. We've got a big group, but we'll choose the best ones. All right. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good one. Thank you.